Hello and welcome to Pixel Magic Tutorials. I am your host Geekman, and today we're going to learn how to create the Guardians of the Galaxy logo in Photoshop. Now, a couple of assumptions that I'm making right off the bat. Number one, I am using Photoshop CC 2017. If you're using an earlier version of Photoshop, some of the effects may not work as expected. Second, I am using Windows. So if you're using a Mac, when I say hit the Control key, that means hit the Command key. And when I say hit the Alt key on the keyboard, that means hit the Option key. So with all of that out of the way, let's hit Control N on the keyboard to bring up our new image dialog box. And let's name our new image as Guardians logo, because we're making the Guardians of the Galaxy logo. So our width is going to be 3,840 pixels, height of 2,160 pixels, resolution 150 pixels per inch, RGB color 8-bit, background contents doesn't matter, we'll change it, Adobe RGB 1998, and square pixels. Let's hit create, and we are now ready to begin. Now, I'm not going to bother creating the space background on screen for you today. There is a link in the description below to one of my other tutorials where I teach you how to create this space background. But for now, I'm just going to drag in an image that I already have created, and we're just going to use that as our background, and that's done. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to type in our text. Okay, before we type in our text, though, we want to change our foreground color to the proper color that we need for this text. Okay, we're going to change our color here to 15 BCFD. Okay, this nice Guardians of the Galaxy blue. We're going to hit OK, and then we're going to choose our text tool. Now, you do that by hitting T on the keyboard or by going over here to the text tool on your toolbar. Okay, and you want to get a font. Now, I have a link in the description below to a Guardians of the Galaxy type font. It's called Guardians. Okay, and that's the font that I'll be using, but you can use this with just about any font that you want, of course. So the text size that we're looking for is going to be 180 points. Okay, nothing else really matters. I'm using all caps, so if you want all caps, make sure that the all caps button here is clicked. And that's all that you need there. Then we're going to click, and we're going to write in our words. And I, as always, will use Pixel Magic. Now, as you can see, this is much, much larger than the screen itself. Okay, so I'm just going to bring it in over here so that you can see it a little bit better. And we now need to fix the kerning. Now, you want the letters here to be slightly close, but still have some spacing. So see this I and the C over here? You want to make sure that your the way that you fix kerning, I'm sorry, I shouldn't skip ahead here, is you put the cursor between the letters, and then you use the Alt button and the left and right arrow key to move things closer or move them further apart. So left arrow key will move the C closer to the I and the I closer to the G, but if I thought it was too close, the right arrow button would move it further away. So this looks good. I'm going to move the G real close to the A. The A looks good over there. And this space between the pixel and magic, I think, is too big. So we're just going to use the same technique to close it in a little bit, like so. And then we're going to make the L closer to the E closer to the X, and so forth and so on until it looks good to your eye. Now this looks good. We're going to hit the little check mark up here to accept, and then we're going to go to our move tool, which is V on the keyboard, and we're going to move our text until it is in the center of our document or thereabouts. So there's the center, and that looks like the center right there. So here we are now with our font. Okay, and everything seems to be working great. And what we're going to do now is we're going to select the text outline, and we're going to create a new layer, and we're going to put that text outline on that new layer, and we are going to shrink that outline. I've explained it, now let's actually do it. So let's create a brand new layer here, and let's rename this layer as Text Effects. Okay, and we are now going to make sure that we are on text effects. And then if you hover your mouse on the layers palette over the T of the text layer, and then you hold down Control, you will then select the text. As you can see, we have marching ants around our text. Then we are on our text effects layer, which has nothing right now, and we are going to go up here to select. We're going to go to modify, and we're going to go to contract. Okay, and we're going to contract our outline by 5 pixels. Hit OK, and you can see that it has now gotten smaller. Then on the text effects layer, we are going to fill that with our foreground color. So we're going to hit Alt and Backspace, and that fills it with blue. So if I turn off our Pixel Magic layer, you can see that it is now a blue layer of text for text effects. Okay, then we can deselect by hitting Control D on the keyboard, and then we're going to create a new layer above our text layer effects, and we are going to name this as Text Outline. Okay, we now have a text outline layer. And then we are going to once again select the Pixel Magic or whatever your font layer is. We're going to hold down Control and then left click on the T to select an outline of not the text effects layer, but of the actual text. See, that is the text, and this is our text effects, which is smaller. And then on text outline layer, we are going to go to select, we're going to go to modify, and we're going to go to expand. And we're going to expand our selection by 5 pixels, hit OK. And then we are going to change our foreground color to a different color, because we don't want to fill it with blue, we want to fill it with a different color. And the color that we want is going to be BC9C61. Okay, that is now going to be our new foreground color, and we are going to fill this selection of our text outline layer with that by hitting Alt and Backspace. So now we have a filled layer with this kind of fleshy or light tan color. Okay, then we can deselect by hitting Control D, and we have deselected. Now, I've already hidden the text layer. You can hide it now by clicking on the little eye icon there. We no longer need it. You can actually just move it to the back here. And we can get rid of background. We don't need that anymore. Let's throw that away. All right, now what we want to do is we want to move text effects above our text outline layer. So let's drag that above text outline. And now you can see that we have an outline around our text, but no actual effects are on our 2 layers. And now what we need to do is do the effects on these layers. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to start with our text outline layer, and we're going to do some layer effects. So let's go down here to our effects layer, and we're going to start with a bevel and emboss. Now with our bevel and emboss, let me move this up and out of the way so that you can see it a little bit better. Our bevel and emboss, what we want is inner bevel. We want it to be chisel hard. Our depth is going to be 100. We want it to be down, okay, and our size is going to be 12. Our soften is going to be 0. Our angle, and make sure that you uncheck use global light. Our angle is going to be -90. It's going to be at an altitude of 50, and the gloss contour that we want is ring double, which is this guy right here, I think. Is that? No, that's peaks. Here it is, ring double. And if you don't see all of these contours to choose from, just go over here to Sprocket, click on that, go down here to load contours. Oh, I'm sorry, not load contours. You want to go down here and you want to go to contours. Click on that, and then it will replace current contours with the contours from contours. Hit OK, and then you see all of these contours, and you want to choose this guy right here, which is ring double. Anti-alias is unchecked. Highlight mode is screen. White is the color. That's all Fs. Opacity is 50%. Shadow mode is multiply, black, which is all zeros. Opacity is 50%. The next thing that we need is our contour. So you want to go over here to contour, okay? And the contour that we want is linear, anti-alias is unchecked, range is 50%. Okay, the next thing that we need is texture on this bevel and emboss. So we're going to click on texture. And the pattern that we're looking for here is, what is this? This is called noise, right? Yes, noise. Okay, and where you can find noise is under textures. So if you don't see noise here to choose from, what you want to do is you want to click on the little sprocket, go down here to texture fill, okay, hit OK, and then you will find noise. I think this is noise. Is this noise? No, that's confetti. Where is noise? There's noise. Right here, noise. 200 by 200 pixels. That's what you're looking for, okay? So you select that, and then you want the scale to be 100 and the depth to be very, very small at only +1. Okay, invert is unchecked, link with layer is checked. The next thing that we want is we want to have a gradient overlay. Now you're going to need 2 gradient overlays. So the first one, the topmost one, and then you can just hit the plus icon here to create another one. But let's start with the topmost one, the one closest to the top up here. And we want that to be a blend mode of lighter color. at an opacity of 60%. And the gradient that we want is going to be a custom gradient that we will create right now. Now, all the way on the left, you only need 2 of these color stops. So the very, very left color stop at location 0% will be a nice bright yellow. That is FFFF00, which is pure yellow. Okay, once you have that, you then want to create a second color stop, and that's going to be black, which is all zeros, at the 40% mark right here. And then you want to go over here and make sure that this is at 50%, this little icon here. That becomes important later on, not right now, but make sure that it's at 50%. Once you have all of that, hit OK. Make sure reverse is unchecked, align with layer is checked, style is linear, angle is 90 degrees, and scale is going to be 100%. Okay, next up, our second gradient overlay. Remember, just hit the plus and then go to the bottommost gradient overlay. And that one, we want to have a soft light at 100%. The gradient here is going to be the pure black and white gradient. Okay, so you can select that right here. And then what we want is to make sure that the reverse is unchecked, align with layer is checked. It's a reflected style, so make sure you choose reflected, 90 degrees, scale of 100%. Okay, next we want 2 more things. We want a pattern overlay right here. So on pattern overlay, you want the blend mode to be luminosity. You want the opacity to be only 20%. And the pattern that we're looking for can be found under patterns. So you want to go down here to patterns and you want to hit OK. And the pattern that we're looking for is this guy right here, which is satin. Okay, so you want to choose satin, and then the scale that we want for satin is 250%. Link with layer is checked. The last thing that we need is a slight drop shadow, which will barely be seen, but does make a slight difference. Okay, and the drop shadow that we want is going to be a blend mode of normal. The color that we want it to be is FEFFAE. Hit OK. Opacity is going to be 20%. Angle is going to be 90 degrees. Use global light, remember, is always unchecked. Distance of 5. Spread of 0. Size of 20. Contour is going to be linear, so that's the default. Anti-alias is unchecked. Noise is 0. And layer knocks out drop shadow is checked. And that's all that we need for our text outline. So let's hit OK. And as you can see, we now have a nice, cool looking little outline for our text, but we don't have anything in the text itself. So now let's take care of that by going and selecting our text effects layer. Okay, and then going to applying some effects here. So let's go down here to our layer styles and let's choose bevel and emboss again. Okay, and the bevel and emboss is going to be a little bit different this time. Okay, we're going to do inner bevel, but it's going to be smooth. Okay, the depth that we're looking for here is going to be 100. We want it to be up, not down. The size that we're looking for here is going to be only a 3. Soften is at 0. We want this to be at -90, and we want this to be at 30. So 30 it is. And the gloss contour that we're looking for is going to be linear. Let's see, right like that. Anti-alias is unchecked. We want this screen here to be white at 50%. And we want this shadow mode to be multiply, and it's black, all zeros, at 50%. So the white's all Fs, the black's all zeros. So all of this looks good, and this is now done there. The next thing that we need is 2 gradient overlays. Okay, gradient overlay for the top here, we're going to make this multiply. So let's make this multiply. We're going to make the opacity here is going to be at 55%. And the gradient itself is going to be 2 color stops. Okay, the first one here is going to be white. So let's make that pure white, which is all Fs. Okay, and we're going to make this at 70%, like so. The second one is going to be all black. Okay, so let's make sure that that is black. It is. And we're going to make that at 100%, like so. We're then going to hit OK. Reverse is unchecked. Align with layer is checked. It's going to be linear, 90 degrees, and the scale is going to be 100. Okay, so we can actually take this one here. We don't need that. We can get rid of it, and we will create a brand new one. And the bottom one here, what we are going to do is we're going to make this one here screen. Okay, and the dither is going to be unchecked. And the gradient itself is now going to be this white one right here, but we're going to make that at 0. So there it is at 0. Here we are going to make this guy right here, this black one over here, is going to be at 30%. Okay, and what we're going to do is this guy right here, this right here, we are going to make that at 30. I did forget to do that for the one above, so we'll come back to that in a second. So style is going to be linear, it's going to be 90, it's going to be 100 degrees. Now let's go back to our gradient overlay over here. I forgot to change my midpoint between these guys, and that is supposed to be at 40. So now it's at 40, and that looks a little bit better. So there we go. So that is all that we need there. Now, you're looking at this and you're saying, well, where's all the scratches that they have in the actual logo? Well, we're going to create that right now by opening up a new image. Okay, now the image that we need to do is going to be a scratched metal. So I'm going to open that up and then I'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. This particular image of scratches, I have a link in the description below where you can download this for free. And then we can use that, but you can feel free to use any scratched metal that you have out there, or you can create it yourself if you know how. So here's the scratched metal, but the scratched metal needs a little work before we can actually use it in our image. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to add a new black and white adjustment layer to this image. So we're going to go down here to black and white adjustment layer, just like that. We don't need to do anything special. We're just getting rid of any color that might be in the scratches itself. The next thing that we need to do is we need to add a levels adjustment. So let's add a levels adjustment layer. And for this particular image, I know what I need to put in here for the dark and for the white to really make it stand out. But feel free to play with this until you get a nice, easy to see scratched metal look. Okay, I'll show you what I mean over here. I'm going to make this at 100 right there. I'm going to make this guy over here at 195. And as you can see, this looks a whole lot different than it did before. It's much more pronounced with the scratches. See, if I turn this off, it's a light scratching, and now that it's on, it is a very deep scratching. So this is the kind of effect that you're looking for with whatever scratched metal image you're working with. Okay, if you're working with this one in particular, then you know that you need to make the blacks 100 and the whites 195, and that will give you this exact look. Okay, once we have that, all that we need to do is we need to merge all of these layers down and then copy this scratched metal texture to our Guardian logo file. So let's merge these down by hitting Control, Shift, and the letter E on your keyboard, and you can see that it is now all merged down into just one layer. And then what we want to do is we want to copy this to our Guardians or our text image document. So let's just drag this over and hover over our original image, and let's just drop it right here over the P. Now, when you're working with this, what we need to do first, let's just rename this as, well, you know what? We don't need to rename it now. Let's not rename it. Let's just work with what we've got. So I happen to like the way that this top portion here looks for scratches. So I'm going to position this right above my lettering like so. And then I need to fill the entire image. Now I could just make this very large, but then the scratches get really, really large on the letters. So I happen to like it a little small. And looking at this, I can see that I'm going to need 3.5 of these scratched metal textures in order to get all the way across. Oh, one more thing. The reason why I'm using this particular scratched metal image is because it is tileable. That means that as I drag this across, here, let me move this over here, and I will hit Alt and Shift and then click and drag. As you can see, it tiles perfectly. There is no seam between it. So it just continues on all the way. And I could turn this and line up this side over here too, and it works the same way. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, because as you can see, this line here is the same as this line here, which is the same as this line here. So I'm going to try and break that up by Control T and right-clicking and going to flip. Let's flip horizontal. Nope, that's the wrong way. Control Z. It's flip vertical. No, Control Z. Let's just turn it, holding down Shift, turn, 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 turn. There we go. That worked out a little bit better. So now I'm making a a seamless pattern, but it looks more like a real pattern that's repeating itself. Now, as you can see, I'm going to need more of this. So let's just duplicate this, holding down that, and let's fill this out just like so. And that looks pretty good. Let's make it just slightly smaller. Let's select all of these, merge them down, Control E to merge them all down, and then let's Control T, and we'll make them all a little bit smaller, about like that. And then we'll position it over all the letters like this, just clearing all the letters like that. There we go. So that looks good. Hit OK, and now I've got my texture ready. So here's what we need to do. We only want this to affect our text effects layer. We don't want to affect anything else. So we are going to just hold down Alt on our keyboard and hover in between the two layers, and you'll see the arrow change, and then just click there, and this will now be constrained to only affecting the text effects layer. Now that we have that, all we need to do is change this layer mode to overlay. So let's change that to overlay like so, and you can see we now have scratches all over our text. But in the original logo, it's not all over the text, it's only on the top portion of the text. So we're going to add a layer mask here. Oh, you know what? Let's just rename this as Scratches 1, because we're actually going to do a second layer of this. So Scratches 1. And then what we're going to do is we are going to add in a layer mask like so. And then we're going to go to our gradient tool, G. Okay, and we're going to make sure that our gradient is pure black and white. So let's choose our black and white layer like that. And then what we want to do is we want to hide our scratches from the bottom up. So let's make sure that we are using linear, mode of normal, opacity 100. Let's leave it as regular. I don't think we need reverse. Let's find out. And then start at the bottom and go up like so. And you can see we have now hidden the bottom. I'm not very happy with that effect. Let's just go up a little bit more. Oh, let's go up a little bit more there. Why is this not working so well? Let's make it higher. No? You don't like that? There we go. That looks a little bit better. All right, so you play around with it and you figure out what works. So now what I want to do is I want to add on another layer of scratches, because when I zoom in, the scratches look okay, but they're not great. I want more scratches. I want it to look more like the actual logo. So let's duplicate this by just dragging it down and duplicating it. And now what we're going to do, you can see it's a lot more heavy, but the scratches all go the same way. We're going to reverse them. So let's click on the little link icon between the Scratches 1 copy. Let's actually just rename that as Scratches Copy 2. And let's click on the little link icon there and then select the actual scratches and then hit Control T on our keyboard. And let's hit right click on the image and then let's flip vertical. Blink. And as you can see, we now have scratches going both ways. So let's hit Enter. And we now have a finished document of our scratched metal looking text that looks exactly like the Guardians of the Galaxy logo. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe. I do new tutorials every Tuesday. Once again, I am Geekman signing off for Pixel Magic Tutorials.